Thank you for joining us today to watch this informational video to learn more about Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity's home ownership program. In this video, we'll discuss what Habitat's mission and background are. We'll discuss how Habitat for Humanity home ownership works. We'll go over the program criteria. We'll talk about how applicants qualify, and then we'll go over the application process. So let's get started. Before we dive into our content, it's important that you understand that Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity is an equal housing opportunity lender. This means that we are pledged to the letter and spirit of the U.S. policy for the achievement of equal housing throughout the nation. We encourage and support an affirmative advertising and marketing program in which there are no barriers to obtaining housing because of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin. Habitat for Humanity is a global nonprofit Christian housing ministry that began on a co-op farm in southern Georgia in 1976. Since then, Habitat for Humanity has expanded to work in over 70 countries and all 50 states. So people in your community and all over the world partner with Habitat to build or improve a place that they call home. Habitat homeowners help build their own homes alongside volunteers and pay an affordable mortgage. Habitat's vision is a world where everyone has a decent place to live. Its mission is seeking to put God's love into action to bring people together to build homes, communities, and hope. Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity began as an affiliate of Habitat for Humanity International in 1986. Habitat for Humanity International is the parent organization of Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity, which is chartered to work locally in El Paso County. Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity is a home builder and a mortgage lender. Working with volunteers, future homeowners, and community partners, Pikes Peak Habitat has served over 170 families in El Paso County. Typically, Pikes Peak Habitat builds 8 to 10 homes per year. In our second section, we'll discuss Habitat for Humanity home ownership and how it works. So how does Habitat home ownership work? Well, Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity offers first-time home buyers the opportunity to purchase a home with an affordable mortgage. Qualified applicants are selected to partner with Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity to build and purchase their own home. Habitat for Humanity follows a non-discriminatory policy of family selection, so neither race nor religion is a factor in choosing Habitat homeowners. We are a Christian organization, but we work with families of all types. We work with families of all sizes. So an individual or a married couple with children, a single parent, non-married couples, or non-traditional families, all are welcome to apply. The Habitat home ownership process begins well before families are selected to move into homes. It's a cyclical process and it's constantly happening. It begins when Habitat acquires land. This land may be donated or in some cases it's purchased. But in all cases, Habitat owns the land that it builds homes on. Habitat must raise funds. The construction cost of each Habitat home is covered by a sponsor. Sponsors can include local businesses, churches, or individual donors. Sometimes it includes faith organizations. Pikes Peak Habitat can only ask for funds within the boundaries of El Paso County, so all homes are built by local sponsors. Once the funds are raised, families can be selected. Habitat's Family Selection Committee selects qualified families through an application process. Once these families are selected, the home can be built. Families are selected for the program and they work in partnership with Habitat, construction staff, and other volunteers to build their own home. Once the home is built, the home is sold to the home buyer. The family purchases their home with an affordable mortgage, and then these mortgage payments help raise funds for future home construction. Pikes Peak Habitat's Family Selection Committee selects homeowners based on 3 criteria: the applicant's level of need, their willingness to partner with Habitat, and their ability to repay a mortgage through an affordable payment plan. We'll cover these topics later. What does the timeline look like for a family applying to move into a home? Well, the application process typically takes about 3 months. During this time, the applicant would submit an application. That application would go through a credit check and processing. The applicants participate in a home visit, and then our board of directors makes final approvals. Once our applicants are approved to participate in our program, they become future homeowners. They complete program requirements and the home is built. This takes about 12 to 18 months. During this time, the future homeowners are completing sweat equity, homebuyer education, and submitting to monthly financial review. Once the home is built, the applicant or the future homeowner would participate in a final credit check. This is because during the time that the home is being built and the applicant or future homeowner actually moves into the home, it's a 12 to 18 month lag. So we need to make sure that during that time, all of our future homeowners are maintaining financial eligibility so that they can repay the mortgage once they move into the home. So once the home is actually built, we have a house dedication. This is a celebration of the contributions of the future homeowner, of the community, of staff. It's just a celebration of all of the work that's gone into the home. The future homeowners will also participate in a closing. So they'll go to a title company and they will sign a bunch of documents, and then the keys are theirs and they're welcome to move into their home. They become homeowners and then they start making mortgage payments. What does a typical Habitat home look like? Habitat homes vary in design style between different neighborhoods. However, all Habitat homes have the same underlying characteristics. Habitat homes are anywhere from 2 to 5 bedrooms. This is dependent on the household size. The square footage is anywhere from 900 to 1,500 square feet. All Habitat homes are energy efficient. They come with a fridge, stove and an oven, furnace, hot water heater, a utility room. It will have hookups for a washer and dryer, but it will not come with a washer and dryer. There will also be a hookup for a dishwasher. In some neighborhoods, there are homes with yards that have a shed, but in some neighborhoods, our yards are smaller and our homes have a garage. It's important that you understand that Habitat is not a custom home builder. Our floor plans are set. We also do not provide an extra bedroom. Homes are built to accommodate current family size. Habitat homes are constructed for approved applicants based on the household size and composition. We do have a bedroom policy. This policy states that every household member must have a bedroom, so no one will sleep in a living room. There will be no more than 2 people in each bedroom. Children of opposite genders will not share a bedroom. Children more than 5 years apart in age will not share a bedroom. And then homes, again, are not built with an extra bedroom unless a special medical condition would require it, and this typically requires a doctor's note. Here is an example of our bedroom policy. This is a 5-person family. There's a mother and a father. They would share a bedroom. There are 2 daughters. They are less than 5 years apart in age, so they will share a bedroom. And then there's a son, so he would have his own bedroom. So this household would be eligible for a 3-bedroom home. All Habitat homes are attached to a Habitat mortgage. Habitat mortgages are tailored to each family's income and are paid back between 15 and 30 years. Payments are tailored to specific household income. The maximum mortgage payment at the time of sale will not exceed 28% of the household's gross monthly income. Here are a couple of examples of a monthly Habitat mortgage payment. This shows that mortgage payments are tailored specifically to household size and household income. In our first example, this 2-person household earns $4,000 a month, which would be on the upper end of our income bracket. Their maximum mortgage payment would be $1,120. Our next example is a 5-person household earning $3,000 a month. This family is on the lower end of our income bracket. Their maximum monthly mortgage payment would be $840. Monthly mortgage payments include a principal payment on the mortgage, so the actual cash amount that is owed back to Habitat for the construction of your home. And then the second portion is an escrow payment. Escrow payments include homeowners insurance, property taxes, and any HOA dues. These items often change in value year over year. So while Habitat makes your initial mortgage payment very affordable by keeping it under 28% of your gross monthly income, Your payment over time may increase due to escrow payments. So if your homeowner's insurance or your property taxes increase, then your overall mortgage payment may increase, but the amount that you pay to Habitat monthly never changes. Habitat mortgage payments do not include utilities or home maintenance costs. There's some things to keep in mind about homeownership. Homeownership has some new responsibilities. These include home and yard maintenance, homeowner's insurance and property taxes. It's a long-term financial commitment, and you may have new community responsibilities. There are also a lot of benefits to homeownership. You're building wealth, you have security of permanent housing, you're free to modify it, and you own it. All Habitat homes have what's called shared appreciation. This means that you are more than welcome to sell your home, but the length of time that you have been in your home will determine whether you receive any additional equity from the sale of your home. Habitat homes must also be used as your primary residence for the life of the loan. This means that renting is not allowed. Now let's talk about the program requirements. What happens once an applicant is accepted to participate in Pikes Peak Habitat's homeownership program? Once an applicant is approved for the program and becomes a future homeowner, there are certain program requirements that must be fulfilled before the future homeowner can move into their home. Why? Because we believe strongly in partnership. And partnership, there are responsibilities on both sides. Habitat has worked really hard to ensure that all of our homes are kept affordable for our future homeowners. So we want to make sure that we are partnering with people who honor that and are willing to put in the same level of commitment. The program requirements include sweat equity, homebuyer education, financial review, representing Habitat, and down payment and closing costs. What is sweat equity? Sweat equity is essentially completing volunteer hours. These volunteer hours are completed mostly on our construction site, but all future homeowners complete at least 200 hours as an investment in their home and their partnership with Pikes Peak Habitat. These hours can only be completed after being accepted to the program. Each future homeowner will complete 200 hours of sweat equity. In a household with 2 adults, each adult will complete 200 hours for a total of 400 hours. Friends and family are welcome to join a future homeowner on the construction site to be a support to the future homeowner, but their hours cannot be counted toward the homeowner's hours. To work on our construction site, children must be at least 16 years old and an adult must be present. Again, if they contribute hours, those hours are not counted toward the future homeowner's hours. Over the course of the construction of the home, the number of sweat equity hours completed per month averages out to about 17. Sweat equity can include construction work on your home, construction work on another Habitat home. We do build multiple homes at a time, so it's possible you would be working on your neighbor's home. Participation in the mandatory homebuyer classes and any sponsor events do count towards sweat equity hours. And then volunteering at the Habitat Restore also counts towards sweat equity hours. We do ask that the majority of your hours be completed on the construction site. The number of sweat equity hours can never be waived, so you must complete the 200 hours. But accommodations can be made for anyone with a disability or another circumstance that might prevent the individual from being able to work on a construction site. All future homeowners will participate in first-time homebuyer classes. These classes are designed to help prepare future homeowners for the new responsibilities that come along with home ownership. These classes are mandatory. The classes include topics such as budgeting, money management, credit management, home maintenance, landscaping, homeowner's insurance, estate planning, mortgage documents, being a good neighbor, and protecting your assets. All future homeowners will also participate in monthly financial review. It's very important that from the time a future homeowner begins the program to the time that they move into their home, that they are maintaining financial eligibility. This means that on a monthly basis, all future homeowners will turn in their pay stubs just so that we can verify that they still have the income necessary to be able to repay the affordable mortgage. Future homeowners are required to participate in this, and they may also participate in credit counseling. Representing Habitat is a huge responsibility for future homeowners as they build their homes and for homeowners after they've moved in. Sharing your story and advocating the Habitat mission is what engages volunteers and donors to work with Habitat to further our mission. Future homeowners will be responsible for down payment and closing funds. The down payment and closing costs are $1,000. Then we do ask that all future homeowners have their first year of insurance paid at the time of closing. This is typically $1,000. These funds will be due at closing, so that's approximately a year to 18 months from the time that an applicant is approved for the program. So there will be plenty of time to save for these funds. So the total amount would be $2,000.
Now for everyone's favorite subject, how do applicants qualify for our program?
Habitat assesses applicants based on three main criteria: their current need for housing, their willingness to partner, and their ability to pay. A need for housing could be that the applicant is experiencing any one of the following, or a number of the following: inadequacy of heating, electrical, plumbing, unsafe structural issues, unhealthy conditions, unaffordable, meaning that rent is more than 30% of the household income. Could be that the applicant lives in subsidized housing, that they're in an overcrowded situation, so adults are sharing bedrooms with children, or children of opposite genders or children more than 5 years apart in age are sharing bedrooms. Could also be that the applicant is in temporary housing. That could be living with family members, living in a shelter, or living in a situation where they don't have a lease. Could also be that the applicant has previously been denied for a mortgage. It's important to understand that applicants who successfully demonstrate that they can meet all three of our criteria will be prioritized based on the greatest level of need. And this is just because we are a housing ministry, so we want to make sure we are serving those who are most in need. Having a willingness to partner means that the applicant understands and is willing to complete all of the program requirements in a manner that is healthy and cooperative. So the applicant is willing to complete the required sweat equity hours, participate in the home buyer classes, and also maintain financial eligibility throughout the construction of their home. Because Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity is a mortgage lender, having an ability to repay a mortgage becomes one of the most involved of the three criteria. Being able to repay the mortgage means that your household has a stable income source and that it's documentable, that your household is not overburdened by debt or credit obligations, and that there are no other identifiable factors that would affect the applicant's ability to repay an affordable mortgage. So what are the income requirements? Applicants must have a 2-year history of employment with no more than a 3-month gap in that employment. Employment must be within the same field of work. So if an applicant has transitioned from one job to another, there cannot be more than a 3-month gap in that transition, and the work needs to be in the same line of work. So if an applicant went from being a bank teller to being a teacher, those two employments are not in the same field of work. So we would need to see that the applicant had been in the field of education for at least 2 years prior to application date. For self-employed applicants, we need to see a documentation of income for 24 months prior to application date. This income must be reflected on tax returns. All income sources need to be reasonably projected to last at least 3 years into the future. So for example, if you are using child support to qualify with your income, you need to make sure that your child is going to be receiving that income for at least 3 years. So if they're maybe 17 or 18, that income source may not be lasting for 3 more years. What are the eligible income sources? Any earned income, so income from employment or self-employment, supplemental security income, Social Security disability income, veterans benefits, child support, and then any other income we may consider on a case-by-case basis. We do have non-eligible income sources. These include anything that's temporary, so temporary assistance for needy families, food stamps, unemployment benefits, seasonal work, unless we can show that that seasonal work has a pattern. Housing choice vouchers, although we cannot use those as an income source, do indicate that an applicant has a need for housing. And then any income that cannot be documented. So we do need to show that you have an income source that has a paycheck or a pay stub, that it's going into your bank account, or that it's reflected on your taxes. We need to be able to prove that it exists. Habitat does use income guidelines to qualify applicants. Our income guidelines come from Housing and Urban Development. Housing and Urban Development uses what's called the area median income. This number changes each year. The area median income is a fancy way of saying that in a community, half the people make more than a certain amount and half the people make less than a certain amount. Habitat always uses gross income when we're referring to our income guidelines. We are looking at the amount that a person receives before any taxes or deductions are made from a paycheck. Net income would be the amount of money that a person receives after all taxes and deductions, or take-home pay, but Habitat is mostly interested in gross income. Habitat will assess an applicant's annual gross salary to determine whether the applicant meets the income criteria. Some people are more comfortable with what they make monthly, weekly, or even hourly. This number will need to be converted into an annual amount to help you determine whether or not you meet the income criteria. If you need any assistance with calculating this number, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office. To qualify for our homeownership program, your household's gross income must meet the income guidelines for the year in which you are applying. Our income guidelines do change annually, so please make sure that you check our website for the most up-to-date income guidelines. To read the income guideline chart, select the number of people who will be living in your household, not the number of income earners, but the number of people living in the household. Determine the income minimum and the income maximum, and your household income must fall between those two numbers. Credit reports are reviewed as part of the application process. We review applicant credit reports in order to calculate a debt-to-income ratio and to make sure that applicants can afford to take on a mortgage loan. Think of your credit report as your financial resume. It's a snapshot of your credit history at a specific point in time. Habitat is reviewing that, not your credit score. What are we looking for on your credit report? We're looking at payment history. Are there late payments on your accounts, or are you making full on-time payments? What type of accounts do you have? Do you have a mixture? Do you have auto loans, credit cards, bank loans, student loans? What are your monthly payments on your loans? And what are your overall balances? We're also looking to see if you have any collection accounts, bankruptcies, judgments, evictions, foreclosures, or repossessions. Essentially, we're looking to see if you're demonstrating positive credit use. A debt-to-income ratio is used by all lenders to help determine whether an applicant has enough income to cover their monthly debt obligations. Debt is the largest disqualifier of Habitat applicants, so it's very important to understand how Habitat translates the debt that appears on your credit report to a debt-to-income ratio to determine whether you have enough income to cover those debts. So we'll take your credit report. We'll look at each individual account and we'll assign a monthly payment amount to that account. So if you have revolving debt or a credit card, we will make the payment be 3% of the overall balance of that card. If you have any installment loans, so a car loan or a bank loan, these typically have a fixed payment amount, but if for some reason this installment loan does not have a fixed payment amount, we will calculate it as 1% of the overall balance of the loan. Student loans are calculated a couple of different ways. It depends on the status of those loans. So if a loan is in deferment or forbearance, it will be calculated at 1% of the balance of the loan. If they're on an income-based repayment plan, we will consider that payment amount with documentation. So even if the repayment amount is 0, we will calculate the payment as 0. Otherwise, you may have already established a repayment amount with the creditor. If so, we will use that amount. So we've taken all the debts from your credit report, we've categorized them, and then we've assigned them a monthly payment amount. Let's review a debt-to-income ratio example. When calculating a debt-to-income ratio, a lender always includes the potential future mortgage payment. So for a Habitat mortgage payment, that would be 28% of the applicant's gross monthly income. So we want to make sure that an applicant can afford their current debts and take on a mortgage loan. So we'll add in that 28% of their gross monthly income as the mortgage payment. So in this example, this applicant has debt obligations of a mortgage payment. So the mortgage payment is $500, meaning that's 28% of their gross monthly income. They have an auto loan that's $250, and then they have a student loan that's $85. So on a monthly basis, this applicant has a debt of $835. Their income, they have a job, they earn $2,000 a month with that, and then they have child support of $250 a month. So total, they have $2,250 in income each month. To determine the debt to income ratio, we're going to divide the debt by the income. So we'll take 835 and divide it by 2,250, and we'll end up with a percentage. This percentage is 37%. The lower this number, the better. If an applicant had zero debt, their debt to income ratio would always be 28%, because we're always factoring in their mortgage payment at 28% of their gross monthly income. So you cannot get less than 28%, but in order to qualify for Habitat, your debt to income ratio cannot exceed 40%. Now we're going to dissect some of our additional criteria surrounding debt. Collection accounts. Applicants cannot have more than $2,500 total in a collection account. It does not matter where these collection accounts come from. It does not matter if they are medical or in relation to something else. The total cannot exceed $2,500. We do ask that if you have outstanding collections, that you have contacted the creditor prior to applying to establish a repayment plan. We ask that with your application, you would include a note explaining the nature of this collection account and outlining your repayment plan. Shared debt. If you took on debt with someone else, for example, if you co-signed on a loan or you jointly opened a credit card, this debt may show up on your credit report. If you took out debt with an ex, even though your divorce decree may indicate that the debt is no longer yours, if your name was not removed from the loan itself, you may be held legally responsible for this debt. So Habitat will treat shared debt as though it is yours. Co-signed accounts. All co-signed accounts must have a 12-month history of full on-time payments. If you are not the one who is making the payments on this account, we do need you to submit a statement showing proof that somebody else has been making these payments for the past 12 months. Bankruptcy. If an applicant has had a bankruptcy in the past, it must be discharged for at least 2 years prior to the date of application. The applicant will also need to demonstrate that they've reestablished positive credit patterns post-bankruptcy. Repossessions. Any repossessions must have occurred at least 3 years prior to the date of application. Judgments. If a creditor has sued you over a debt, you may have a judgment. In order to be eligible for Habitat home ownership, applicants cannot have an outstanding judgment on their credit report. This judgment would get tacked on to your home when you go through the purchase process. So in order to qualify for Habitat, we need to make sure that judgments have been fully paid and that the proper paperwork has been filed and recorded with the court showing that the judgment is satisfied. Evictions and foreclosures. An applicant may not have a foreclosure or eviction 3 years prior to the date of application. To close out this section, let's look at our final remaining criteria. Applicants must be first-time homebuyers. In Habitat terms, this means that an applicant has not owned a house or land 3 years prior to applying. This does not include mobile homes. If you live in a mobile home and you do not own the land on the mobile home, then you would still meet the eligibility criteria for a first-time homebuyer. Residency. All applicants must be able to demonstrate that they have resided in El Paso County for at least 1 full year prior to applying, and that they are U.S. citizens or hold a U.S. permanent resident card. Marital status. If a potential applicant is separated or in the process of a divorce, and the applicant's legal spouse is not a permanent member of the household, the divorce must be finalized prior to the date of application. This is so that no estranged spouses can come and claim property as theirs when they have not gone through the application process or put in the hard work of helping to build the home. Additionally, Spouses should both be listed on the program application. So one should be listed as applicant and the other as co-applicant. This means that each applicant must meet the program eligibility guidelines. In terms of income, this does not mean that each applicant has to have an income source, but that collectively the household income meets the income criteria. Habitat does have a criminal background check and sex offender policy. Habitat will perform a criminal background check on applicants in the final stages of the application process. The following offenses will automatically make an applicant ineligible for our program, and those are a conviction of pedophilia by any adult who would reside in the home, and then a conviction of drug sales in the state of Colorado within the 36 months prior to application. Any other records will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis.
Now let's go over how to go through the application process to apply for a Habitat home.
Here are the steps to the application process. So step 1 would be to watch the informational video. Step 2 is to complete the homeowner interest form on our website. Step 3 is to fill out the program application when it becomes available. Step 4 is to make an appointment to turn in the application. Step 5 is processing and credit check. Step 6 is a staff interview. Step 7 is a home interview. And then step 8 is a final approval. Let's dive into each of these steps a little more closely. So step 1 you've already completed. Step 2 would be to complete the homeowner interest form. This form is located on our website. We use this form to gather your contact information so that we can notify you when we are able to accept applications. We are not always accepting applications, so it's important that we can notify you when we are going to accept applications. To do this, visit our website, www.pikespeakhabitat.org/apply, locate the homeowner interest form, and put in your best contact info, specifically your email address, because this is how we will notify you. Step 3 is to fill out the program application. We are not always accepting applications, and the program application changes between each application cycle, so you want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date copy. This will be available at least 30 days prior to the dates that we are accepting applications. So make sure that, again, you're on our list of interested applicants so that we can notify you of the application availability. When applications are available, you can print it off on the website or pick it up at the office. In all cases, it will need to be filled out by hand. We do not have a digital copy. Make sure that you follow the included directions closely. There are a number of checklists and directions to follow on the application, so make sure that you're reading it carefully. If you have any questions regarding your application or if you need assistance in completing it, please contact the office before coming in to submit the application. If you need assistance with filling out the application or if your question is rather involved, we will ask you to make an appointment and you will need to call the office to schedule this. Step 4 is to schedule an appointment to submit your application. So once you've completed the program application, call the office to schedule a time to return it, along with all of the required documents and the fee to pull your credit report. Appointments to submit an application can only be scheduled during open application periods, so the application itself will let you know what those dates are. The intent of the appointment is to make sure that your application is complete. We're not reviewing any eligibility criteria or determining if you do or do not qualify. We're just going through to make sure that we can process the application. If it's incomplete, we're not able to process it, so we want to make sure that we have all of the documentation we need to process. Step 5 is processing and credit check. So processing of applications typically takes about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the number of applications received. Once it's confirmed that an application is complete, Habitat will pull your credit report. Within 30 days of pulling your credit, you will be informed as to whether you have been denied based on your credit or that your application is still in process. Step 6 is a staff interview. So applicants who can successfully demonstrate that they have an ability to repay the affordable mortgage will be called back in to have an interview with Habitat staff to discuss any clarifying matters and to review the applicant's understanding of the program criteria. In this phase, we will also ask for income verification from your employer and a landlord reference. Step 7 is to participate in a home interview. Applicants who have successfully demonstrated that they have an ability to repay the mortgage will be presented to our Family Selection Committee for review. The purpose of this review is to determine an applicant's need for housing. In order to do this, our Family Selection Committee goes out to applicants' homes in pairs and they conduct an interview. This interview is to assess your need for housing. It is not meant to be invasive, it's just meant to help us determine the priority level of need for our applicants. All applicants are assessed using the same questionnaire. The final step is final approval. So at the recommendation of staff and the Family Selection Committee, qualified applicants are presented to our board of directors for final approval. We've covered a lot of criteria. So how do you know if you should apply? These are some questions that you might want to ask yourself before deciding whether or not to submit an application. First, do you meet the income requirements? Do you meet all of the other requirements? Do you know what is on your credit report? Can you devote 17 to 20 hours per month to Habitat over the next year, completing sweat equity? Are you ready for the responsibilities of homeownership? And can you save $2,000 for the down payment and closing costs? If you answered no to any of these questions, you might not be ready to apply yet. Identify what you need to do to get ready and make it a goal to apply for our program in the future. It might be that you have a number of months to wait before we are able to accept applications. What might you do between now and when we are accepting applications to prepare? First, you could get organized. Locate your important documents. Know where your tax returns are. Know where your social security cards are, birth certificates. Know how to access your bank statements. Keep track of your paychecks. Also, track your income and your expenses. Then you could create a budget. So once you've tracked your income and expenses, you can assign a role for each dollar. You can determine whether you have an excess or a deficit. If you have a deficit, you might want to try increasing your income or reducing your expenses. If you have debt, you can use your budget to help start paying down some of that debt or create repayment plans. If you know you have collections, go ahead and call your creditors and set up repayment plans. You could also use this time to start building a safety net. So work on putting funds towards a savings account, and the savings account could be used for emergencies, or it could be used for your down payment and closing costs if you are approved for the program. You could also monitor your credit. It's important that you check your own credit regularly. If you find any inaccuracies, dispute them. And again, if you notice any collection accounts, you might want to contact creditors to make a repayment plan. To monitor your own credit, you can visit annualcreditreport.com. Through this website, you are able to check your credit once a year entirely for free. You do not need to enter any debit card or credit card information. There are 3 credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Each has their own credit report. Through annualcreditreport.com, you can pull each of these individually. So if you pulled Experian in 1 month, waited a couple of months, pulled TransUnion, waited another couple of months, and pulled Equifax, you could be monitoring your credit report year-round. Keep in mind that not all creditors report information to all 3 of the credit bureaus, so you might have accounts that show up on some credit reports and not on others. What's most important is that you're making sure that you're monitoring your credit to see whether or not accounts that you are unfamiliar with are showing up, or if your creditors are reporting their information to the credit bureaus accurately.
We've come to the end of our informational video. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to learn a little bit more about Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity's home ownership program. It's our organization's belief that with a little bit of help, our Habitat homeowners are able to achieve strength, stability, and self-reliance through home ownership. Thank you.